Hi, and welcome to a quick episode which is the follow up on the Dunning-Kruger effect. This I love because logic is a more interesting subject than even Aptera is, and I am happy to discuss logic all day long. But anyway, I'm going to read most of the comments that are in the video that Steve made that are pertinent to the Dunning-Kruger effect part of his video. Here's the first one. Owen Scarpness. Personally, I'm no advocate of misinformation and general idiocy. If you see someone misinforming others or generally preaching from Mount Stupid, kill their ignorance with fire. Sometimes it's better to respond with wisdom, and other times it's better to remove the comment completely if there's any doubt that others will not see your response and may simply be influenced by said idiocy. Burn Mount Stupid to the ground. Well, this is all based on the false premise that Aptera has the wisdom and the naysayers have the idiocy. That has not been proven. And Mount Stupid is only a point on a graph. There's nothing to burn to the ground. Rich Pate replies, since learning about this, I must admit I have occasionally been guilty of preaching from Mount Stupid. Not intentionally, but because I, like many people, just don't know what they don't know. Now, if I am not absolutely sure about something I want to say, I first do research, and if that doesn't qualify what I'm thinking, I refrain from saying anything, or I ask a question about my concern. The problem with this response is Steve has asked whether to block or not, and he hasn't even addressed that question. Ty Newen says, please filter out stupid. At least it's a direct answer, even if it doesn't say why. This larger thread is interesting. Start with John Malcolm. The Aptera Owners Club addresses subjects very pertinent to the success of ED adoption in the US, with insightful analysis of what goes on behind the curtain and how that influences the success of Aptera, and serves the Aptera enthusiasts community while encouraging a continuing learning experience on the forum for new and long-time forum members. Once again, John Malcolm doesn't answer Steve's question. Then Don Ranke says, do you know N. Bruce Nelson? You sure sound a lot like him. Or are you Bruce, using another account? The words success and Aptera bug should never be used in the same sentence. Doomed to fail like it did in 2011. Matt Adams says to Don, there's no shame in a startup failing. They tried to bring a revolutionary new product. The business ran out of money. It was a noble effort. Innovation and progress will never occur in the absence of risk and some failure. Neither of the last two have addressed the issue. People get sidetracked very easily. Then Earth Creature says to Don, Bruce isn't a good ambassador, nor is he good at understanding context, but you are 100% just as pointless and apparently extremely unintelligent. Earth Creature isn't telling Steve what he should do. He's way off track. But anyway, I don't mind him saying people are apparently extremely unintelligent. Nothing wrong with that. Don replies to Matt, yeah, most of us have heard the stories about Colonel Harlan Sanders, if that was his real name, multiple business failures before he discovered Kentucky Fried Chicken. The key is mass appeal, which is highly doubtful this thing has. Henry Ford succeeded because he built something in great demand, an inexpensive car for the masses. His descendants also failed with the Edsel, also an odd-looking car which was rejected, despite sharing powertrains with Ford and Mercury vehicles, with the exception of two exclusive engines, unless one has a fetish for the bizarre. Once again, Don has barked up another tree. John Malcolm replies to Don, no, I am not him. We're about the same age with similar experience. It's a compliment to be said to sound like him. Please hold your breath until it fails. John Malcolm happens to be one of those who I find apparently extremely unintelligent, from comments he's made on my sites. Still no addressing Steve's question. Don Renke replies to John, LOL, I like a snide individual, no matter if they are wrong, because I'm about as snide as they come. You are the only proponent of this thing to have earned a thumbs up. Seems you are all clannish. Can stick together, though, given that you seem to know a lot about him. While he falls short of being a worthy adversary, he is, however, a great source of entertainment. You are free to share that with him. Well, that's the end of the thread, and it was, to put it mildly, barking up the wrong tree. Guy Skier says, Those at the peak of Mount Stupid, I've been there at times with certain issues, generate their own reward, the scoffs of those who have passed that milestone. As always, thank you for your work, Pro Aptera. No reply, even though it says there's one. Once again, Guy Skier is barking up the wrong tree because he didn't answer the question. Do I block people or don't I? Is basically what the question is, in case anybody has forgotten. Terry A says, if you could point out the people that are on top of the mountain of stupid so we could see who they are, how stupid or annoying annoying they are before we just block them all. That's so incoherent. That's a real touchy subject of free speech. I have to agree with Terry. If people think people are a certain way, certainly point out why. The cretin Steve replies, freedom of speech is just saying that the government can't restrict your freedom of expression without a really good reason. There is no legal protection of restriction of speech by private entities. If you've read every comment on the channel, it's pretty obvious who the people on top of Mount Stupid are. As far as I understand, the Constitution speaks about free speech, and then government legislates for government on that. But underlying what's in the Constitution is the intent, and the intent is to be fair to all people. Now, when people are blocked on places like this, that's where inequity arises. And so, even though there's legislation for government and no legislation for individuals, the ethics are there, and people who block are unethical. And it doesn't matter whether it's obvious that someone is on Mount Stupid or not. Make Steel Battalion says to the cretin Steve, out of curiosity, I went looking for who that person is, and it looks like you've already dealt with his comment on this video. Good riddance to that guy. Well, to me, that guy was Don Renke. I wouldn't have minded if it was me. It doesn't matter. Anyway, David George says, problem is people on Mount Stupid don't think the Dunning-Kruger effect don't apply to them. The fact is, the Dunning-Kruger effect doesn't apply to most people. That was a select group that they observed, and it applies to a minority group when you consider the whole world. But the real question is, can other people know who's on Mount Stupid? I don't think it's that easy. Brian Betron said, we don't know what we don't know. Do your best with the commenters. That is all you can do, right? Well, Brian, you haven't really answered the question, but you came close. That's more than what most have done so far. G. Nissen says, the competence should start at know it wrong. We have a lot of people that are not ignorant, but just wrong. So that causes the peak to go even higher. It takes a lot of work to get them to realize they know nothing. So my question is, how does blocking create a lot of work to get them to realize anything? It does nothing. Uncle George says, wrong makes the journey much longer. Well, Uncle George, if you block, the journey has ended abruptly. Here's a long thread instigated by Don Renke, the man in question in the original video. So, failing to get investors of all banks to put money into the boondoggle. This doesn't look interesting. So, in the end, I'll get down to, hey, tree huggers, fad followers, and those with a preference for the bazaar unite. Save my life, I'm going down for the last time. Apologies to Head East. Well, there's nothing in that, so I'll just go down to first reply. K. Manskra X or something. Hey, Doubting Don. If you're writing this on your cell phone, use it and call someone who cares. If not, go use your rotary phone. I'm sure you still have one. This is getting into nonsense, isn't it? Don Desert says, one rises into the wind of adversity and falls in the flow of it. Difference of opinion and views should be welcome, but bullying, name-calling, or just being insulting is not welcome. Someone could have an extremely valid point, but if they call someone that, nobody will listen, and it only reflects badly on them. My guess is that many of us have 30-plus years of engineering background, given the comments and responses, but your comments are really in the area of just trolling. If you have a difference of view, you might consider how you express yourself without name calling. Now, Don has a sensible response here. I agree that swearing is inappropriate, and I think YouTube actually can police that. And if YouTube aren't doing the job well enough, then certainly the owner of the site can also block on the basis of foul language. But let's get into some logic here. If a person demonstrates well enough that they are idiotic, there's nothing wrong with calling an idiot an idiot. What is wrong is if a person demonstrates that he's cognitive, is a rational thinker, then it is very wrong to call a rational thinker an idiot. It's basically get it right or you're wrong. I'll leave it at that for now. Don Renke replies to liquid paraffin, ROFLMAO, those things, you know what it means. No, I'm using a computer. My mobile phone, which I don't carry around, doesn't do internet, but at the same time, it's non-trackable. No Faraday cage needed. I haven't had a pulse dial or what you call a rotary phone for years. However, I did learn programming in BASIC and Fortran, still used for some maths and science operations, using a teletype hooked through a modem to a mainframe downtown. The optically read IBM punch cards were before my time, but I have some just as a historical oddity. Sounds like a lot of waffle to me. Don replies to Don Dessert. If you are referring to me, which I have been extremely critical of this thing, I have never called anyone in these other forums a swear word. I have 50 years' experience in all things automotive and safe bodywork, which I loathe. While technique-based, I consider it closer to an art than a craft or trade. While I believe many of you are misled and some plain wrong, I don't use terms like that unless someone uses it first on me. You can tell this Steve guy this, and he can look in the comments for verification. Fair enough. I might add that while I read this, the brightness and the brightness of the day makes it difficult for me to see some of the words. It's not that I'm a poor reader, it's just that visually it's difficult. Don Dessert says to Don Renke, I'm sorry that you missed my point. Your perspective may have value, but it's lost in your delivery. If you do not like or agree with the Aptera, why are you here? You know everything there is to know about automobiles. Of course, the Aptera is not an automobile. You will never change the minds of those who want to see the Aptera built as much as none of us will change your mind. Enjoy your ICE vehicle. Well, Don Dessert, first off, I think you'll find if Aptera actually gets made and sold, it does qualify as an automobile. It's just not a car. And as far as changing people's minds go, that doesn't matter. As long as what you say is truth and right, it doesn't matter if a person believes it or doesn't believe it, or changes his mind or sticks to what he thinks. That doesn't matter. The responsibility in delivering a message is to deliver facts that are true. And back your facts with reasoning. Cretin Steve says this is an example of someone who is perched firmly on top of the mountain and does not wish to move off it. Steve stood in front of a thermal management system on a test bed that was patently incomplete and would not work. It could not deliver any results. The idea that in the computer room behind they could tell that Aptera could drive through Death Valley was the biggest crock I've ever seen and heard. Now, there's an example of someone who is perched firmly on top of a mountain and doesn't wish to move off it. He got sucked in big time. He didn't have the nous to see through an obvious fake. It's an example of the pot calling the kettle black as far as I can see. Don says to Don again, Oh, I have various ones over the last 48 years and will continue to do so, many of them with powertrains upgraded and re-engineered by myself. What I have done is explain why this thing will likely never be built, and should it by some miracle make it to production, it won't last long. Ford produced the Edsel. I think we've been through all this. You can read it if you like, if you pause your computer or phone. It's not worth going into. Don Renke says to the cretin Steve, exactly what have I stated that is patently false? You are severely underfunded as compared to what major manufacturers spend to complete a clean sheet design. It's a proven fact bizarre vehicles don't sell. Sales records support this. No major investors or banks want to risk taking a chance on this. You did get 20 million from the first incarnation of this outfit liquidated in 2000. So where's the lie? Well, we're still miles away from people addressing the issue, but I have to side with Don Renke on this one. If Steve can't reference things that have been patently false, I think Steve's in the wrong. It's not worth reading that last one. Lights on multimedia mind arts. He says, and I'll just go straight to the second paragraph. The second part regarding those commenters who dwell on Mount Stupid, I find their comments to be equivalent of gang graffiti. In the town where I live, it is the law to paint over gang graffiti within a narrow period of time. If you don't cover it over, then the graffiti spreads unabated, which is what I see happening here. Graffitiists crap all over the comments. They incite arguments. They inhibit conversation and comments by attacking others. This is not an issue of free speech because this is Steve's site and he can do with it as he wishes. If it were my site, I would have cut off the trolls long ago. That's an interesting comment. Is it really the same as gang graffiti? I don't think so. There are some very telling differences. First of all, this is a site that is dedicated to people making comments. It's meant to take sentences and paragraphs. It's meant to take comments that have meaning. Now, graffiti never does that. Graffiti has tags, which you can't even identify who's tagging anyway. It has drawings, and it's in places where it's not meant to have anything. Trains are supposed to be clean trains. They're not supposed to be painted over. Walls are supposed to be clean walls. Well, it's illegal to paint on them. So there's some telling differences there. Just in simple terms, the analogy is incorrect. Lights on multimedia mind arts is incapable of thinking rationally. I might add that he's incapable on this point. He might be capable elsewhere. Jordan Mamamoto. Hi, Steve. This is your channel, and you control the comments as you see fit. I think you have proven to me that you are level-headed, and I trust that your decisions would allow constructive criticism. Given that, you have my vote, for what that's worth. Well, Jordan, it's not worth much. He's proven to me that he's a bit of a thickhead. So, does that mean I can tell him that he shouldn't block? No. We both have opinions as to it's his channel and he controls the comments. Certainly, he has the ability to block, but the ability to do it has nothing to do with the ethics behind it. Uncle George, well, he's just been sucked in. Andre M. Gamara says, I do find a few posters to try merely disrupt the theme of the video. I just disregard their comments and move on to the next poster. Most posters are genuinely interested in learning from your videos, I being one of them. Then there are those that try to bring information and knowledge to the topic. As to your question, the disruptions should be weeded out because do not know if they are bots or work for other companies that are trying to discredit Aptera and any channels that are trying to promote Aptera. Who calls Steve? But I, for one, like the 3 strikes and you're out principle. While Andre is difficult to read, I'd like to say a few things. Firstly, the 3 strikes and you're out principle. I use that, not kicking them out, but I'll allow 3 idiotic statements, and then the next one I'll tell them they're an idiot. Stephen Hawes says, in response to the commenters on how to handle those in the beginning stages of the competence graph, I would hope that we can let them just be without putting them in the corner. As I have come to notice since being involved in the Aptera fan group, is that they are generally very fair-minded and accepting individuals, and I would hope that kind of environment can be perpetuated. So whatever you choose to do, I have confidence in your guidance of the channel. I have been nothing but impressed with your content and management so far. So here's somebody that sees things differently. Rich Pate says, yes, who hasn't gotten excited about something and presented their opinion as fact, just to give their idea or prejudice more weight? I occasionally have caught myself on Mount Stupid by realising that I just didn't know what I didn't know. Now I attempt to do a little research before posting, or if I can't qualify it, either say nothing or present a question. However, I feel that if there is a commenter who consistently, like on every post, expresses a lot of FUD, they may have either a hidden agenda and or a mental problem. As such, they degrade the spirit of the community and the validity of information being presented. I suggest setting a standard, like someone receiving dislikes on 6 consecutive posts, to label them on an abuser as an abuser. The result can be banning them from making future comments or suspending them for a set time. The problem there is nobody knows a fact from a fallacy most of the time. It would be easier to discover a hidden agenda than it is to determine whether a person has confidence and doesn't know much. It's probably easier to pick out a mental problem in somebody's comment than it is to do likewise. And there's a real problem with using dislikes because people can band together and just say, let's give this person a stack of dislikes, and that would be unfair. I like this one. Chinny Rajesh. Big fan of your Aptera content, but I think this is an unnecessary video and the topic. Too right. Dynamo 228. You should allow people to stay on Mount Stupid if that is where they want to remain. They are sometimes very entertaining. I like to be. I find that hard, probably just as hard as being intelligent. One reply, JP. Some get to be just a royal pain in the ASS. While I support allowing people to express their views, there are a few who proudly demonstrate that they do not deserve even the privilege. I support silencing those few who are loud and determinedly ignorant, like one who has several replies on this video. Well, JP, real freedom of speech does not hinge on what you like about what they say. It's just all about being equitable. Jim Becker, do you believe in free speech? If you have a comment area, you should permit comments that differ with yours. Well said. Now, JP again. Differing opinions, yes. Outright trolls, no. Of course, there are some cases where this line is very difficult to delineate. All I can say about that is, if it's difficult to delineate, then maybe that person shouldn't be making the videos in the first place. Lights on Multimedia Mine Arts. Negative commenters are free to create their own YouTube channel. One I know for a fact has. Wow, that's me. John Malcolm. Free speech is in the eye of the beholder. Actually, the owner of a YouTube channel has the authority to set the guidelines for posting on the channel and also the right to remove any posts the owner feels violate those guidelines. Most don't, since the monetization of the channel depends in part on the volume of posts, so are very liberal on what they will allow, since to them it's a business. They want the maximum revenue from the channel. Well, John, in my case, I don't make a cent out of this. I just do it, one, for practice, and two, because I love to discuss logic. Brian, I try and stay positive in my comments, but sometimes I lose it over these anti-Aptera idiots. This is the risk having a social media channel. There is no solution to it but to try and bring down the emotions with positive energy to see what their motive really is. Mount Stupid got lots of words. We all have this responsibility since we are investors and promoters of the vehicle. If the vehicle can't stand up on its own, then they have a full right to speak up. So Brian has decided if you're anti-Aptera, you're already an idiot. I notice he's never said why. Salonen says, I don't think you should squelch people for being stupid. Only obvious trolls are deserving of that. Misinformed people making comments gives us the opportunity to teach. If not the stupid commenter, then maybe someone else who had a similar question, concern, thought. To that I say, there's nothing wrong with the owner of a site telling somebody their comment is stupid, as long as they give their reason. Uncle George says, Aloha Steve, almost too much truth. Thanks, carry on. Edit, I have been king of the mountain too, many times. My favourite example of your illustration is when the news media used to ask Alexander Graham Bell about brain melodies. I think I'll skip this one. There are mountaineers and there are just plain jerks. I'm keeping it clean, and that's how really knowable people talk. Should I wish best wishes to Don R. and the Aussie fellow? I've never heard of the word knowable. I think he means knowledgeable. But anyway, best wishes to you, Uncle George. You're not the sharpest tool in the shed, so why aren't you brimming with confidence? Richard Rodriguez says, let them stay, others will educate, or they will tire and leave. Charge on. That sounds a bit biblical to me. Alzo Stubby. Yay, finally I know where I belong. Mount Stupid. Well, that was said, brimming with confidence. John Jackson says, yay, Steve. I had responded to that guy and I probably could have been more tactful in my response. He did seem genuinely concerned, but reading his long diatribe on a simple concept got me in a poor mood as I felt my time was being wasted. His subsequent response to me fell more into the trolling category, as he simply ignored my explanation and doubled down on his complaints. I would argue that your likely goal here on this channel is to foster legitimate discourse, which is very welcome and needed. If a commenter is meaningfully impacting legitimate discourse by knowingly spreading misinformation, insulting other commenters, spamming comments, or by other means, then I see it as a benefit to all commenters/viewers when you mitigate. Those commenters impacting legitimate discourse here can surely go to the AIM channel, where I feel engagement is the only expectation for channel discussion. I think John Jackson has me confused with the man who Steve was referring to, who was allowed to ask questions. But of course, the AIM channel is me, Aussie Ideas Man. So I'm a bit confused. Let me just say that I deal in facts. Now, facts are devoid of niceties, tact, stroking, all these other things that are, I guess, emotional in nature. We need to just deal in facts and not introduce all these things. Now, when you call somebody an idiot, it's because they've strayed on facts. It's because they can't tell a fact from fallacy. And idiot is a useful term, or anything in that response. You can't go calling somebody irrelevant words that are not tied to a person's intelligence. Irrelevant words are off track. Hammer Time says, something I've noticed since I follow most car-related news and communities, especially EVs, is that Aptera enthusiasts are generally the most analytical and engineering-focused individuals of any auto consumer group I've found. What a lot of hogwash. Still, plenty of dummies circulating though, like that Aussie Ideas guy. That's me. I've learned quite a lot about engineering in my quest to fully understand Aptera's inner workings and design ethos. Well, Hammer Time, I've hammered you lots of times already. Now, you say you've learned a lot? Tell me what you've learned. The comments are there waiting for you. Victor Brown, shut down the fools. Then you wouldn't have the guy making the videos, the cretin Steve. He'd be the first one that needs shutting down. Jeff the Christian Gamer. That doesn't bode too well in my book. This video was, as your videos tend to be, very informative. No, they're not. They're all guesswork. I believe that you have a very good head on your shoulders and you should be more than capable of doing a good job of moderating comments without my input. Well, he has to ask everybody. That stated, since you asked, it may be prudent to go with something like a 3-strike rule. If the person is confidently perched on Mount Stupid and proves it multiple times, give them the axe. That's what I do on my channel anyway. So you know how to pick somebody who isn't a guru. But as many times as I have been on the peak of that mountain, I have never once personally wanted to stay there. But those that do tend to be more trouble than they are worth when it comes to coaxing them down. What heroes you are. All you people who are openly admitting you are mountaineers yourselves, wouldn't that tell you that you are inequitable and unfair if you think there's a mountaineer, they're gone? John Collins. With my limited comment reading, I don't see a Mount Stupid problem, but that's probably because I'm on it. You should absolutely regulate it as you see fit. I'm still wondering, how does he see people on Mount Stupid? How can he tell an idiot from a guru? Rossiu, the little black rodent. A certain Aussie I know is the king of Mount Stupid, I think. Well, you little rodent, not while you're commenting. John Malcolm replies, perhaps, but you have to admit he provides comic relief and makes everyone else look good. John, I'd love to do better on the comic relief, but I don't know who looks good. Don Desert again. As for blocking, removing people, difference of thought and opinion should be welcome as long as they are kept respectful and not trolling. Those that just want to troll can go elsewhere. At some point, we have all be clueless about the Aptera or something in general and ask what seems to be ignorant questions. If someone truly doesn't understand or has not seen that topic has been answered 100 times already, that is fine. Not everyone has time to watch all of your videos and to read all of the comments. Your channel actually provides much more information than Aptera's website in so many ways. The number of engineers here is many times the number of employees at Aptera, though we do not have first-hand knowledge of the actual build. We do have 30 plus years of experience in things that worked and things that failed. Please filter those that are just trolling. It seems as if you have had to do so for the guy down under, me again. That is pure negativity and bitterness. Unfortunately, there are still others that think name-calling and bullying is the way to get their point across. Well, Don, Steve has never given me a proper answer to anything. And if you can find one, I'd like you to reference it for me. He has never given me a decent answer to anything, and neither has all you engineers that are supporting Aptera. No proper answer to anything, and this is where I'm remaining until I get answers. And I'm also waiting for the whole deck of cards to collapse. So, having a good time in the meantime. This is what I enjoy. Now, name calling and bullying, the way to get their point across. I see that as no way to get a point across, but I also see it as no way to strengthen the other side's point. It is nothing either way. If anything, all it does is let other decent thinking readers more quickly identify who are foolish and who are not. Just look at it as a cherry on a cake. I'm really getting too much work here. It's a rod for my back. So, Dean McManus, I'll just go right to the last sentence. Unfortunately, the downside of Aptera getting more attention and success is that fame attracts the worst flat earth time wasters. Well, I can't see Aptera getting success. You show me what success they had. I'd like to discuss it with you in the comments. Fame attracts the worst flat earth time wasters. That doesn't even deserve a response. I'm skipping over things now, but I like to hit on Steve's own comments. The trolls are trolls, I think, because they have supreme confidence in their viewpoints, usually because they are ignorant. What do you think? Well, I wonder how you know they're ignorant. And what's the difference between somebody responding with negative questions and somebody putting out all these, I think this, I think that, maybe it's this, maybe it's that? I don't see much difference between the two. Negative questions and ridiculous assumptions. Not much different. In fact, I think the questions are probably better. Here's one that I put up, even though I knew I was blocked. If you think I broadcast my own ignorance, then tell me why. I bet you can't. You're blocking me because I explain my concerns too well and it interferes with your discounts. Now, the way YouTube works, I see my comments even when I'm blocked, but nobody else can see these. So if people do see these prior to any point where Steve unblocks me, if people see these, then I am not blocked. But the main thing is, Steve has never responded to this. And I think he still sees them, even if they are blocked. This is me just telling Steve to watch for my next video. Good enough, Venson. He provides an interesting viewpoint. I'm out of time, so just pause it and read it. Timothy Moroney has also got his head screwed on properly. Well, I've reached the top. So now I've just got to edit all my pauses, the pregnant pauses that I do, just so that I'm not wasting too much time, and that's going to take a long time. So I'll just finish up by saying bye for now, stay safe.